Very plain and straightforward statement, which we would understand to mean simply what it says.
Well, and it helps us to understand the Bible, because the genealogy of Christ in Luke chapter 3 eventually takes us back to God.
He was the Son of God.
I think they're talking literally.
Sure. Well, they have to be, but it's an interesting thing. Most of the world would say you're tracing back for 4,000 years.
Well, and
literal, and all of a sudden you get to Adam, and that's got to be figurative, but this is saying no.
We've got a second and a third witness, and a witness straight from a modern prophet's mouth.
So this is these are the kind of things that just constitute marvelous treasure.
Let me point out one more thing here. Of course, I would say this because I think it, but as we've just talked about in verse 9, male and female being there with, as we talk about God, and what Andy just said, what Adam is doing afterwards is the very same thing. He has sons and daughters who are the sons and daughters of Adam. Verse 9 tells us that Adam also has reference to Eve as well. And very often when we use that term, we forget, but we can remember that Eve is included in that as well.
And that broad term, mankind.
That's right.
Because that's what Adam means.
This is a great phrase here in verse 9 where it says, and called their name Adam. Now, I'll tell you what that says to me. That says that in the story earlier, Adam is invited to give names to everything. Name implies ownership. It implies responsibility. It implies dominion. Eve is entering into a covenant with Adam, and she is in effect saying, Adam, I will be one with you. I will labor at your side. I will sustain you. I will labor with you. I will bear your children. And all that we do, we will do together, and all that I do will be to sustain you, and I will take your name as a symbol of that. And Adam, in effect, is saying, I will give you my name. You are mine. I will bless you. I will protect you.
I will
provide you. I will sustain you in all that you do. And that becomes a marvelous metaphor for our relationship with our Father in heaven. It's the same principle. We take upon ourselves the name of Christ, and we enter into that covenant and say, we will labor in your behalf, and we will sustain your cause, and be advocates of the truths of salvation, and in turn you will protect us and provide for us and bless us. And it's just sort of the same covenant again.
Let me pick up on that too, and just again piggyback on something you said. When God creates, after Adam and Eve are driven from the fall, then God says, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. And it is interesting, from there on out, we find that God always deals with them as a single unit. He deals with them as a single unit. Husband and wife now become, in God's eyes, one. And I believe that's the cause of marriage, is to make this oneness. And we see that taught very early here.
Yes, we do. In fact, let's go back and read it in chapter 5. You pick it up here in the 4th verse. And Adam and Eve, his wife, called upon the name of the Lord. See, that's family prayer, isn't it? And they heard the voice of the Lord.
It's family revelation.
That's family revelation. See, it wasn't Adam got the word and went and said, by the way, Eve, here's what the Lord wants you to do. They heard the voice of the Lord from the way toward the Garden of Eden, speaking unto them. And they saw him not, for they were shut out from his presence. So Eve was also fallen, Camille.
Because of Eve, we got out of there.
And yet, Eve ate Adam out of house and home.
When the actual priesthood ordinance of sacrifice is performed, it is Adam.
Then it goes back to, and Adam performs the ordinance. Now, let's go back and maybe pick up our story at that point.
Could I just make one other observation? It seems to me that they call upon the name of the Lord precisely because they are shut out from his physical presence, and that's a pretty good reason for all people to call on his name.
Well, there maybe is another point there that we ought to call attention to. I think it's important here in verse 4, if you'll notice, they call upon the name of the Lord. Now go down to verse 8, and notice again, wherefore thou shalt do all that thou doest in the name of the Son. If you turn over the page and you look at verse 10, in the middle of the verse there, blessed be the name of God. You go down to verse 12, and Adam and Eve blessed the name of God. Now, in each of those instances, it would have been easier just to say they blessed God, or they called upon the Lord, but it doesn't say that. It said they called upon the name. Now, we've got a doctrine of names here. There's a very important doctrine of names. And if you want to, what I would think would constitute at least some commentary on that, go over to the book of Abraham for just a moment. And go down to the 18th verse there.
Which chapter?
The first chapter of Abraham. And go down to verse 18. The Lord speaking to Abraham, behold, I will lead thee by my hand, and I will take thee to put upon thee my name, even the priesthood. Now, I think that there is something very significant that's involved here. I don't think that this is just a matter of semantics. I think that we're talking, when we use that phrase and go out of our way to use it, that we're associating their relationship with the Lord with priesthood and with priesthood ordinance.
I think it's several things, in fact, Joseph. I think the other thing is, consider that the name of something. What is a name? It is something which identifies, it is a word or a phrase or a slogan that identifies the essence of something. So, for example, if the Quorum of the 12 were given an assignment that there to be special witnesses of the name of Christ in all the world.
Not just the witness of Christ.
The name of Christ in all the world. They are called and sent out and commissioned to bear witness of all that He is, of His essence, His power.
Well, but
it's
also of His priesthood and the government of the church.
That's right, of His
all
kingdom.
The revelations that have come from Him, and to see that all of those things are in order. Apostles just don't go out and bear testimony of Christ. They go out and make sure that the church is in order and the priesthood is functioning the way it ought to, and that type of thing. Yeah. And all of those things would come under the heading of name. Those things bear His name, and they're responsible to see that they're bearing that name properly.
Well, there's something else, too, that's going on in the ancient world, and that is when an exchange of names occurs, it connotes and denotes an intimacy of the relationship. And you have text or documents from the ancient world that talk about people that don't know the name of this God or that God, therefore they don't have a relationship with Him.
And to gain the name is to gain power with that God.
With that God.
And to erase the name would be to destroy the essence of. Right. So in Egypt they used to go around and chisel off the names of,
That's
of
right.
the pharaohs, and then he was lost.
And this essence thing that you brought up is so critical, because how many times in the Old Testament do we see the name of a person symbolizing the essence or course or direction that their life took? You know, you can think of dozens of examples.
There's enough involved there, and again, these are little things, but there's enough little things in here that I think are really profound, that you just have to say Joseph is really lucky guesser as he makes this story up, isn't he? With that little phrase in his own, Joseph Smith, in his own body, and the name of the Son, and we'll find scores.
Well, he did okay with a limited education.
He surely did.